Afternoon, everyone. Hi. Round of applause for those amazing films that we just saw. I'm going to ask the directors that are here that had their shorts presented in this first block to come to the stage so we can have a bit of a talk back. So, grab a seat. We got a microphone in each seat. Do we have another? I think we need another chair. Or a stool. We have one. Yeah, that's okay. Fantastic. You guys okay with sharing the mic down there? Okay. So please let's give these wonderful gentlemen a round of applause. Wow, stage is packed. I packed y'all in here this afternoon, didn't I? Okay, so let's go down the line one by one. Tell us your name, your film, and just let folks know which film you're associated with, and make sure you let them know your log line as well.
Hi, my name is Suhaib Saleh. I had the second to last film, At War.
Oh, remind them what it's about.
It was about the two actor couples arguing, basically.
My name is Akil DuPont with The Wish Granted, and it's about connecting my family.
Okay.
My name is Jamal Scott. My film was At All Costs, and that was, the logline is a man takes matters into his own hands when he sees a white police officer brutally harassing a pregnant black woman on the same day that Roe v. Wade is overturned.
Hi, my name is Maceo Tendaji. I'm the director of Paralysis. It is a spoken word piece where bystanders are pretty much processing their internal thoughts as they watch a young black boy fight for his life.
Hello, I'm Max Thomas from Chicago, Illinois. I'm representing Broke Down Drone, a love story to North Lawndale.
Great. So there was a theme that went across this entire block. This block is known as Black as Fuck. And I term it that way because these are stories that hit to the essence of what the downside, what can be black life in America. But you guys tell it so beautifully that I thought that it was important to make sure that I had you guys in the same space at the same time. So even through a lot of hurt, there was joy, there was a lot to it. So let's unpack, each one of you. Let's go down the line and let us know why this story at this time.
So why at this time? It's not a particular reason for this time, but the story is because that's what I experienced. So it's my own story, and the internal discussion that I have in my head, I just like put it down to like two characters. It's like it's like the devil and the angel, but there's no good or bad side. It's just two different sides of the discussion, and I let it like Kijani and Kelly, the characters, just go at each other with that.
So are you an actor as
Yeah.
well? And you have to deal with the typecasting and things like that. One of the old movies that has come up a lot this weekend was Robert Townsend's Hollywood Shuffle. And I was watching that movie when I was a kid, and to still have these same issues go on and on and on, this is what your film reminded me of. How many times have you had that internal conversation with yourself as you're going on auditions?
This was inspired from one particular time, a few years back when I landed a role as a drug dealer so I'm from, the film was shot in London, you heard the UK accent, but I'm not from UK, I'm from Sweden. So I was an actor in the Swedish film industry, I'm still an actor, but that was a role that it was Sweden's first like Netflix show that they did back in 2018. So yeah, that's where it was inspired from.
And of course, they cast all the black people as criminals. Or was it different? Did they have black folks in other roles, or?
No, that's the thing. That was the biggest criticism. Like they didn't have it on the other side as well. So, but yeah. So this scenario, I wouldn't say like it was because in reality, like it looked like that in reality, but it just wasn't. There wasn't no balance. You know, that's why.
Wow. Same issues. Let's take it to Akil. So tell us about why this story at this time.
The story created itself, right? And so I just did an ancestry DNA trying to figure out what my mix was, like I said. And then I got this message 3 months later. I was like, whoa, what's going on now? And I never planned on really making a documentary out of it. The documentary is kind of accidental. I had made the video introducing my cousin to the family because since we have so many family members, I have 19 aunts and uncles. And since we have so many family members, like I didn't want to just send out an email with a photo. And so I also do a family archive where I record interviews of our family so that our great-great-grandchildren can look back and see who we were through our words. And I think that's an important thing to do, especially with the technology we have available. So if you should record your family members as well because they won't be here one day. And one day you'll want to hear their voice. So, just get an interview with them, right? And so, but eventually I started just recording other things for the family archive. Like when we walked into my mom's house in Tallahassee, I forgot that our grandparents' pictures were up on the wall. But then, she stopped and she paused. I'm like, oh, well, hold on. Let me just get this real quick here. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing happened with going to our granddad's house, our granddad and grandma's house. I had no plans of recording it. During the whole time, it's one thing that we see the footage up there, but I'm actually trying to, I'm involved, very much deeply involved in the process because I'm ushering Tanya into the family. I'm championing her into the family. And so I'm trying to look out for her emotions and, where she's at right now. I'm trying to also look out for the, other cousins, the aunts and the uncles, and trying to look out for everybody's emotions and navigate this Game of Thrones type situation and negotiation and scenario.
Speaking of Game of Thrones, I was about to ask you, you have the Hand of the King as a pin.
Hand of the Queen, that's right.
Hand of the Queen.
That's right.
On your lapel here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's super symbolic, and I think it's very fitting because you are kind of navigating the story of family and being the person that's kind of in charge of that and just taking on that responsibility to maintain the kingdom that your family has created. You know what I mean? That legacy, and that's a huge responsibility. The main question I wanted to ask you about this was, how is she dealing with her anger? Is there any anger? Because she's damn near, 50 years old at this point, and to have all of that missing, was there a time when she was like, you know what, Akil, I'm so mad? Did that come up?
I think she processed a lot of that before in her earlier days because Tanya was introduced to, through her mother, she was introduced to 4 fathers, and none of those fathers were her actual father. And so she kind of had a lot of stops and starts with all of this, and we even had our own stop and start inside the family when we thought she may have been Uncle Clarence's daughter. And, we didn't, there's a lot of footage I didn't include in the documentary, keeping the tone hopeful and positive. And a lot of, as I'm going through this, like I even think about, I have my 13 uncles that she could be possibly a child of, and it's like I'm not going to interview all 13 of them about this because I gotta live with these people later on. You know what I mean? So.
That's unpacking a lot. I mean, like, we're gonna come back to you in a minute.
Yeah.
We come back. My friend, yes, it's your turn. Why this story at this time?
I think for me, so this story originally stemmed from the question, how can black men protect black women that they aren't related to or attracted to? And what does that look like? And I know at the time, Breonna Taylor, like that whole thing was going on. You have Sandra Bland. And I wanted to create that story, and that's where the first film came about. And after I finished writing that, Roe vs. Wade happened. And I got the idea from God of like doing like a film within a film. And what would it be like if this film was a film that these students are watching in this classroom, and how does it affect them? And not just black kids, but every race. How does this affect the world? And just taking it to the classroom, because I know even being in college, I went to like 37 different colleges growing up, so just being in different classrooms, you always have these realistic conversations, and sometimes it doesn't get to the bottom of it. You have these blowouts with these children or these college kids, and then the bell rings, and you have to go back to your daily life. So I wanted to explore that and see what that looked like from every aspect.
Do you think people get tired of Black Lives Matter stories? Do you think that, we're constantly telling the same story over and over again? Does it feel like no one's listening? Or do you feel like we have to keep telling it over and over again? Like the white girl in the audience, the white student, and she was like, oh my God. And there's a part of, I know black folks as well, that's like, there's a fatigue around this. So what are your thoughts about that?
That's a difficult question, because I think I navigated that with myself. My very first film I did was called Kings, and it touched on the very same subject. Well, not the same subject, but a particular subject where it was about this rookie cop and his first day on the job, and how he navigated his partner who was a veteran officer, and he abused the power of his badge, and how he was going to navigate like being a cop, also being a black man in America. And I thought I was done with that narrative, and then 5 years later, we have this. So I think it's very important to continue to tell those stories, but in a fresh and new perspective, because our stories and our lives matter, and not and all aspects of our stories matter. And I think that if we say, oh, we shouldn't tell these stories anymore, we need to tell comedy stories and fantasy stories, and that's great, we do, but then who's going to tell our real stories that are happening in our lives? So I think that it's important to continue to tell stories that matter, and that are real, and that are authentic, and that relate to what we have going on, and try to find a solution and create that conversation that people can talk about.
I thank you for saying that. The way I feel about it when folks say it to me, because we push out a lot of content and try to get people to watch it, and I tell them simply, once they stop doing it, we'll stop having that story to tell. And it's literally that friggin' simple. So thank you for continuing to tell that story.
Yeah, so for me, paralysis really came about after the George Floyd situation, right? Everybody's home during the pandemic, and I'm seeing a lot of people talking about what they would do in that situation. A lot of people questioning why nobody was stepping in, or talking real tough, like, yo, if I was there, I'd have stomped out the cop, I'd have tackled him, I'd have did this, that, and the fourth. But in reality, in those situations, that doesn't happen, right? And I was just questioning, why don't we act? Why don't we protect ourselves in those moments, right? So I just really did a deep dive in terms of just thinking about why don't we act in these situations. So in Paralysis, when you listen to the poem, everybody's kind of like processing the events unfolding in their own mind, and they want to do something, but they feel paralyzed and stuck, because we know if we act in those situations, then we may save the person who's in trouble, but we know there's going to be a lot of consequences for us to pay as a black person disrupting or interfering with the law, right? So in those moments, we feel paralyzed, we feel stuck. We want to protect our own, we want to help our own, but we know that this justice system isn't fair to us. It doesn't serve us. So I was just really questioning why don't we act, and then I also questioned who would act in that moment. And you notice the fight for justice, each generation is getting a little bit more aggressive, getting a little bit more progressive, right? It went from marching to sit-ins to riots, and then I feel like this generation, they're like almost completely fearless. So I just question, like, if this continues to go in the route that it's going, my kids, future kids' generation, or even a generation after that, they're not going to be picking up signs and marching. They're not going to be throwing stuff into storefront windows. They're actually going to take action. So I wanted to show that or represent that with the younger brother at the end actually taking matters into his own hand and saying enough is enough. And hopefully that would symbolize a turning of a page.
That was so powerful when the first powerful scene was the shot actually hit the cop and he's ground bleeding. There's the triumph and joy. And it's so weird that you would feel happy that someone got shot. But I admit that readily, you know. And then the joy, because that's the only way I can describe it, is the joy when you realize it's a little boy from the house with the gun that shot the cop. Horrible, actually, it's a horrible situation. Yeah. But why does it cause joy in Black people? And for you to put that on the screen and allow us to deal with that emotion shows us the contradiction of spirit between life and death and right and wrong and oppression. And I thank you for that. When I saw that, I was all the way in the back, and even though I've seen it repeatedly, I yelled out, yes! Because it was just, y'all heard me? Yeah. My bad, y'all. But it was just so powerful, and it's like out of the mouths of babes always comes the right thing to do. But is it the right thing to do? Is it the right thing that he even had to be in that situation where he, from the house, I mean, think about this. I'm so sorry, y'all, because I've been wanting to talk to him about this for a second. From the house, that means that look he had, he was worried about him leaving the house, that he followed him and thought to take a gun with him as if somebody messed with my dad or my brother. I don't know if they was father and son or brother, whatever they were. Brother. He was like, if somebody messes with him, it's going down. Okay, now I got that out. Now you can talk, sorry.
Yeah, so that's a lot to unpack. I think the gun symbolizes a lot, right? Because Dwayne is coming home from college for Thanksgiving break, and Rico finds the gun for the first time. So it's like, why does Dwayne feel like he needs a gun? That's first and foremost, right? But we know, in Black communities, especially Baltimore City, sometimes it's not, safe to walk the street without a gun. So like that's number one. He feels like he needs that for his own protection from his own people, right? Which, it's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the truth. And then when he finds the gun, so he's worried about, why does he have a gun? It's the first time I've ever seen a gun in his household, and it kind of shakes him up a bit, right? But to answer your first question about, is the right thing to do? Why are people rejoicing? I think it's because we see so many films or so many events where it doesn't pan out that way. If Dwayne would have got shot by the cop in that moment, it'd have been like, oh, that's just reality. That's real life. We've seen that every day. We've seen that for the last 50, 60 years, right? But the fact that the roles were reversed, right? And now we're seeing somebody actually stick up for one of their own against law enforcement. It's like unheard of, right? And I also wanted to see if an audience could stomach, specifically a white audience, can you stomach it when the roles are reversed, when the tables are turned? If it's one of us dying on TV or movies or television, it's like, oh, okay, cool, that's the standard, that's the status quo. But can you stomach it when it's the other way around?
So let's talk about Broke Down Drone. Why that story at this time?
I believe because I'm born and raised in Chicago, between the South Side and West Side. In Chicago, a lot of times, as many inner cities in America, for Black youth, there's times like where you feel like you can't express the hope that you feel. There's times I know for a fact, for me growing up on the South Side of Chicago, I always felt like I had to be ready before somebody else is ready. You know what I'm saying? Before somebody else is ready to attack or police are ready to, pull me over. So for Broke Down Drone, it's a thing where just finding that hope and then creating that joy of how can we, that symbolism of can we actually get out of our circumstances? Can this drone, which a lot of young Black folks use in terms of making our music videos and everything, we use drone shots all the time. Can this thing actually pull us out of our community? With both of these people, with these two guys being cousins, and just being able to love on each other and laugh, even at times where they both are going through such stressful situations. I think that is something that is huge. Because even like when I think about a lot of the films that, like, even when I think about like a Boys in the Hood, I can't really think of a lot of moments in there where it was like, oh, they're just able to just sit and just have joy. It was like they're sitting for a second and then there's gunshots, you know? But then in this, it was something where we really wanted to express what is that? What is that where both of us can still have hope, still living in a city where across the world, they believe everybody just must be playing, you know, laser tag with guns every day, basically. You know what I mean? That kids are just robbing each other and shooting and stuff. But that there's not people in our community. There's plenty of folks in our communities that have those dreams, have the hope, and are inspired to create a film or inspired to make TikTok videos every day with people on their block. So we wanted to express that. We wanted to show that, and we wanted to showcase, hope and that black joy.
Can I just tell you guys how beautiful all of you are? Y'all are some beautiful black men. And the fact, I'm not trying to hit on y'all. But you guys, these are all, to me, I saw a lot of love stories. Each one was a love story in its own way. So before we take it to the audience, can we talk about these love stories that you have created and show us and tell us exactly where the love is within the story? And some of it is obvious and some of it is not, like you just expressed when they were sitting down together and they got the drone working and that expression of joy and the banter between the two of them. That's friendship. That friendship is dope. We don't see that often. So I just want you guys to talk about that because it provides healing for black women and black men that engage with your art and to encourage you guys to do it even more. So I want you guys to speak on it and profess it as we are on this stage today. So I'll start with you.
I'd say the love is in support, safety, and challenging in my film. When I say challenging, I mean that they challenge each other, you know, with the, where they stand, like on the opposite. Like he's coming in with like, okay, so this is what, this is my view of the situation. So she's challenging him, and he's challenging her.
He didn't get mad. Like you would think, normally when people do stories of black men and a black woman arguing, especially if the woman is darker than him, it becomes violent. And I thank you and I love you for what you did. Conflict resolution and pure love.
Yeah, I wanted to end that way. You know what? Actually, one of the inspirations for this film was the Kendrick Lamar video from last year that we cried together. That was a toxic thing. What I told my team was like, oh, this is the inspiration for this, but like mine is a toxicness, basically. So yeah.
Yeah, the love is apparent, I hope, in the film. And what's not maybe as clear in the film is that, you know, when I found Tanya and Tanya found me, you know, it was more like finding a sibling than it was finding a cousin. Like, you know, our bond is very strong, you know. Eugene and I have a good bond as well. And, you know, so many people, when they watch the documentary, they're like, hey, I'm scared to do them DNA tests. I don't know what's going to pop up, you know. And we always think that it's going to be something bad, but there's an equal chance that it could be something good, right? And, you know, we found this, 48-year-old doctor, you know, who's come and given us all kind of health advice too, because she has a doctorate of nursing practice, and so she, lets us know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong with our bodies, and we're able to pull on her. And Eugene, you know, he is a computer scientist and a politician up in Indianapolis, Indiana, 53 years old, and, the families are, have connected and have become stronger, because of their presence and because they're with us now. And so I encourage people, if you do think about it, not everybody thinks about it, but if you do, don't necessarily go to the negative where our humanity tends to take us. We always think towards the negative with it. It could equally be something positive.
I love that you stayed on the joy side of it. I love that you didn't bring in the ratchetness. I love, because you could have went there and it was the undertones of it, but you allow the audience to play with it and see it, but feel joyful. The other part of love that wasn't apparent that I wanted to commend you on is the love of knowledge of self. One of the things that we don't have or know is our identities, particularly as black folk. So being able to research and having someone in our family who acts as that doctor, if you will, of the tree, of the branches going back and further and further and further, provides true love of self once you know who you are. So you, my friend, are dope for that. Thank you.
The question was, where can we find the love in the film?
Yeah, where's the love in your film, both obvious and not so obvious?
I think for At All Costs, the love, it stemmed from the love of Black women. My mother, of course, is a Black woman. She's right here. She raised me on her own, and also, yeah, she's right there. But she raised me to how to understand how to treat Black women. And I think seeing a lot of women on social media who are being harassed, stuff like that, I wonder, like, what would I do in a situation if that was my mother? And I think for the Black man, for David in the film, that was one of his things was, okay, when I see that woman, I see my mother, I see my spouse, I see my sister, and I have to take a stance. And I don't know if it was apparent, but he was a rookie cop. So it was like, not only do I see my mother, but I also see like this Black man who's not doing anything. And yes, I'm a cop, but I'm also a Black man at the end of the day. And I need to protect my own and protect that. So I think that is where that love came from. Also was seeing the love with him and his spouse in the morning. Just being there, just having, you know what I'm saying,
Oh, what do you mean when he pooed it on her?
Yeah,
That was
when
pure
he brought
hate.
it on
That was hate, sir. That was hate.
right. it was en route.
Oh, and it was a good poop too. It was a good one. I said, ooh.
But that's just little stuff like that. Like I'm very, if anybody knows, I'm very goofy. I get it from my mother. So we laugh about stupid stuff all the time and make jokes. So I just wanted to show that before we got into the real stuff of what was going on, and just show that love there. So that's where you can find the love within my film.
I saw that he had a love of the law as well. And that stood out to me because it was obvious he was a police officer. And as a Black man, to go into law enforcement, you have to really have a love and respect for humanity and right and wrong and the order of law, to take that oath and to choke someone up, kind of, and be able to remind them of the oath that they promise to protect and serve. Now that's love, because I don't see a lot of folks who do that, even those on the force. So thank you for showing that.
Yeah, I think for my film, the obvious through line of love is sacrifice, because the little brother essentially laid down his life for his older brother. You shoot a cop, essentially your life is over, it's done, right? I think the not so obvious display of love is how the community, more and more people gradually came out to, at least somewhat interfere with what the cop was doing. And I think that love of Black people sticking up for one another is something that's not shown a lot, other than the Alabama brawl that happened.
Man, listen, y'all. If we somewhere and I throw my hat up in the air, I expect everybody to come running. You hear me? Shoo. He comes.
Yeah, so you just don't see it, right? And I think I wanted, that was intentional for the crowd to grow. We had a few people that kept walking, but most people, wanted to interject in that situation some way, somehow. So, yeah.
I loved your love of spoken word, how you blended it. The sound design on that was masterful. The thoughts. I saw your love of your people through the selection of your actors, how you framed them out, how they were a true representation of how we see. I didn't see not a BBL or a crazy cap wig on nowhere, no Planet of the Apes. Right. You really showed us in our beauty, and I love you for that. Thank you. That was powerful on so many levels. Just being able to sit and listen to the words, as haunting and horrible as they were powerful and beautiful in their truth. That people are even having these thoughts as they're paralyzed with love for themselves and their own legacy, while being paralyzed with fear of wanting to help someone else. And you showed that dichotomy very well. I like that.
one huge thing that I love about Broke Down Drone is that in the beginning, where it shows you that you can create community with the people that are in your neighborhood, and it does not have to necessarily be, we have to look back on, prior to, and it's true. I understand that, prior to Dr. King's assassination, there were a lot more Black-owned businesses in the community. There was a lot more of us recycling our money within our community. At the same time, there's people in your community, just like the brother that's down and out that's asking for $1 that's seen you grow up. That's part of your community. That man right there could also, there's plenty of those guys I've known in my community have given me wisdom over time, to the people that are owning the stores. That a lot of times I think a lot of times in our store, or a lot of times in films, we'll show that the person that is an outsider that's owning the store is our enemy. But there's plenty of times you have a conversation with this person. You end up seeing their family and knowing their family, from them living in the community. So I think that is very important, is how do we create community together? We are able to do that. We are able to protect each other. We're able to support and love each other. So I think that is awesome. I definitely believe that there is so much love throughout Broke Down Drone, not only between the two cousins, but between different people in their neighborhood and how they leaned on all of these people. And even at the beginning where the guy that's, very, very goofy and looked at as like, he's a funny dude, and then he gets killed. And that's a guy that you've grown up with, and I understand that. I totally understand that. And that is, it's sad because I know for every single birthday that I come up on, my birthday's coming up on September 5th, and every time I come up on a birthday, I'm always thinking of at least 5 of my close friends that died to gun violence. And they were on their way to go and do something. One friend of mine was on his way to go coach a Little League football. And he was just changing a tire, and he got shot through the neck and killed. Another one of my friends was on his way to culinary school, just waiting on his cousin outside the house while his cousin was getting changed and got shot. So those things happen so frequently, but we wanted to show in the film also how that excitement of, oh man, look at this connection, even in a blizzard, we're connecting, and then just how quickly that can go away. But then how the whole community saw it and how the whole community is affected, because it does affect the whole community.
You said everything that I was going to say, but I will say that what I also dug about it was the love of life. I mean, at the end of the day, life has to continue on. And we have to find hope in that. We have to find those precious small moments of joy with those who are left behind.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And figure out a way to make that work for us so that we don't lose hope and despair. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think that y'all did. And the production value. The production value.
Thank you.
Was a love story in itself.
Yes.
I mean, you have a light-skinned and a dark-skinned person on the same set, right? Well, brown-skinned, dark-skinned. The lighting, just how y'all got that lighting
Yes.
together was phenomenal. I'm sure all of you directors understand how difficult that is. And all of you did an amazing job with how you guys put your films together. So I could talk to y'all forever, and I really wish I could. But I want to turn it over to the audience and see if there's any questions or comments. Just go to the 2 microphones in the back. Just jump up and go to the back.
This microphone here. Hello. I want to say I enjoyed all of your films. Of course, they were all taking me on an emotional roller coaster where I was mad or sad or angry or felt warmth. They all did that. So thank you for taking me on that emotional roller coaster. But I wanted to address this to Akil. I was telling my husband, I was like, I could watch this all day. This looks like a series. Like,
That
you
part.
need to get somebody on Ancestry to like sponsor you and do like a Finding My Roots type of show. Cause we also did the Ancestry DNA. And, I'm sure a lot of people have those stories. I don't think I have any siblings out there or anything, lost cousins, I don't know. But I think a lot of people do have those things, and I really think that's something you can run with. It was really enjoyable to watch overall.
Thank you so much. you know, I've had this idea of starting a business where, you know, I do family archives for people. And, you know, I've tagged Ancestry a few times on social media when I put these things up, and they have responded a time or two, but it's definitely an avenue that I'm looking into. And, you know, I think these family stories are so powerful, and this is the first documentary that I put out. Most of my work is narrative work before, but, you know, I think there's so much power in these true stories that are out here, and, you know, we need to get them recorded so that they can exist forever, and all of our great-grandchildren can know who we are. Did you find anything interesting in your DNA?
No, not really. My husband may not want me to say this, I don't know. But he is adopted, and he never met his biological parents. I think he found a cousin or something out there, but he hasn't contacted them yet. So we can have a conversation if this journey that he watched you go through with your family will change his mind about that or not. We'll
Sounds
see.
like your next episode.
To be look.
Next episode, right?
Hey,
If I can
come
speak
on
it
down.
Just 1 second with it. You know, Tanya didn't want to contact me, right? So she was dating a guy, and the guy was over her shoulder when she got the results from the DNA test. But she was like, I don't know who this Akil DuPont guy is. And then the first message I got was from the guy that she was dating. He was like, hey, she just matched up with you, and boom, boom. And I was like, is cuz adopted? Like, tell her to hit me up. And so she still hit me up. You know, she hit me up because he had contacted me, right? But she may not have done it, but I'm glad that he did it so that we could get connected. And then Eugene, he took his DNA test. Like, I took mine and got my results in December 2022. And, December 2021. And Eugene took his DNA test back in 2015, but none of the family members took it. And when I took it in 2021, then there was that first ping, right? So sometimes it takes a while. You know, the people may not be on there right now, or they may not be on Ancestry. Maybe they're on 23andMe, but you know, reach out, holler at them. Yeah. Watch out.
Thank you.
Hi, y'all. So thank you all so much for just sharing your stories, sharing your art with us. I'm actually visiting New York with my aunt over there, who's actually a native Chicagoan. And I'm actually a historian who's in Virginia right now, but I was raised in Florida. So to be from a state and doing history, literally being in a PhD history program and seeing books that I grew up loving and reading, not on my libraries anymore, is whew. But my question to you all, in the midst of this Jim and Jane Crow era that we are living through, how is it that you see art as a tool for change, but also, especially in a lot of spaces and communities that don't have access to these history books, to these stories that are written on the page, how do you see your medium being utilized to not only share stories, but also inform, educate, and inspire, especially as this generation coming up, some of the younger folks coming up behind me who are saying it's not enough for us to be in the streets. It's not enough for us to vote. It's not enough for us to just do these things that our parents are telling us to do. We need to do something different. How do you all see your art influencing and informing that? Thank you all.
We can go right down the line, one by one.
All right, so I think my take on it is kind of self-explanatory, where stories kind of like evoke something in us. You know, when you tell these stories, like for example, now your family ancestry thing, somebody might watch that and be like, oh, let me go on Ancestry. So that's the way that, you know, it can make change in somebody, like individually, just watching something. So art, you create art and you spread it, and that's how like people can take it in, and if it's the right moment, then it will lead to something.
Anybody else want to answer?
Yeah, I was gonna say, pretty much, you know, just piggybacking on what he said. I think art is a way that you can connect with people emotionally, and it's, you know, I feel like all of our films did that, right? It connected with everybody in the audience emotionally, and you speak a different language when you tap into people's emotions, right? You may be saying the same thing, but if you present it in a different lens, in a different context, or a different medium, then you might connect with them differently, right? Opposed to just having something on a textbook or having something laid out on a piece of paper. the art brings the human side of things to the conversation. So I think it's, if we continue to create art, we can continue to have a universal language that connect with humans globally.
Yes, and also going off that, I also think just like events like this, like continue to make it accessible to each other. When we first were doing Broke Down Drone in Chicago, over in North Lawndale, we did a run of shows for free for the community at a local park district. And that brought out a lot of families, a lot of children, and then we were able to talk about redlining in Chicago, have a talk back afterwards, and talk about segregation in the city and how Dr. King used to live in North Lawndale, and tried to help as much as he could in terms of mobilizing people over on the west side, and even that's during the time where he was talking about that Chicago he found to even be more segregated than parts of the South. So yeah, it was great, and that was an awesome thing. But I think that's the way that we do it. Keep creating spaces like this together. I think that's what it is.
Hello, everybody. I'm Akila. I'm one of the actors and poets in Paralysis. And to each and every one of you, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm extremely inspired. All of those were just great films. And I want to know what's next for all of you and how can we support you?
That was my next question.
You don't have to do anything today, huh? So for me, it's I've had kind of like a productive directing career. This is my third short film. It's, since last year, that's when I started. So now it's like I was doing a TV show as an actor last year. It's coming out soon, but it's in Sweden. I don't even know how to see it outside. I'm gonna have to ask the director because I have a lot of friends internationally. But as far as directing, I think it's a break for me. But I'm getting back into even breaks. J. Cole said something nice. In one of his songs, he said. What do you say in the Heavenly Seat? He said, supposed to, he was on vacation, said, supposed to be relaxing, his passion makes that impossible. So even if I'm on vacation, I'm gonna be inspired, write something in my notes, and then next year I'm gonna come back to it and do something about it.
Thank you for your work in the film, which I'm sure was difficult material, so thank you for everything that you did with this fantastic movie. I moved up here a year ago, so new to New York still. Moved up here a year ago to get a project to Broadway, so if anybody's got any Broadway connects, come holler at me. And I do eventually want to turn Tanya's story into a musical itself. And so I would love to do that for her one day.
Okay. So what's next for me? I have a lot of things that I'm working on. But I think to answer this question and the last question, one of the things I love about art is that there's so many different mediums, and you can create from different things. So you have books, you have TV shows, documentaries, films, and for me, just experiencing life and just a community, and that looks like even with the Schomburg exhibit out there. I was telling my mom about there's two exhibits, one called Marking Time and the other one called When Dads Come Home. And they're very powerful. When I was sitting there reading them yesterday, and I was like, I would love to turn this into a short film and combining them, because it's taking that one medium and then bringing it over into the next. And now that visual can inspire or help heal somebody who has gone through those situations. So for me, that's what's next for me is finding that story that connects with myself and that can connect with other people. And I guess the second one is where you guys can follow me or find me. My Instagram, that's where everything is. So you can follow me on Instagram at The Real J Scott, JAYSCOTT. And I put everything on there that I shoot and edit. So, yeah.
For me, kind of like what Jay just said, I have a lot of things to choose from. I don't know which direction I want to go in. I know I have different shorts. I have a TV episodic that I'm just started writing, but I also want to try my hand at making a feature-length film, something that I haven't done yet. My background is primarily in music videos, and I'm transitioning to film. So yeah, it's kind of up in the air in terms of which direction I want to go. me and Akila had to make her next music video, so you guys can be on the lookout for that. Akila's also a singer and a rapper, in addition to being a poet. Yeah, so I'm just, whichever way God points me, like where to go next, that's where I'm gonna go. And in terms of supporting, you can follow me on Instagram, Maceo, MACEO _ Tendaji, TENDAJI. You can also check out my production company, Iconic Visions, at iconicvisions.com.
We've already the feature length film or feature length version of Broke Down Drone is already in revisions right now, and we'll be fundraising soon for that. And I also would love to let everybody out here know that you can also here in New York, you can also join. I'm part of Black Youth Project 100, Black liberation organization comprised of Black folks 18 to 35. So anybody in here between that age range, please join up BYP 100, or also look for a local mutual aid in your community. And that is a great way that you can build with your community members and bring resources together. So yes, and also follow me at That's Max Thomas, spelled just like that. That's Max Thomas all over all social medias, and check out my Comedy Central special.
Okay, you got jokes.
Yes.
Ah, love it. Okay, so we are about to go into the next program. We got one more question. One more question.
And I promise to make it quick. I just let everybody get in front of me because I wanted them to ask their questions first. I just have a quick comment and a question for Akil. The comment is, hey, I loved it. I'm glad that I was here for it. And I, like CR was saying, the joy that you put behind that, and I'm glad you didn't, go into that deeper, and I hope that you continue to do other people's story. That is beautiful at all costs. So what I loved about your film is the duality that you put in it. You did that story, and then you went into the classroom, but I also saw the little stories within that classroom, and I was wondering if you were in one of your projects, are you going to expand upon them?
Yeah, we actually thought about making the actual classroom like a series, and going into each one of the lives of the students, and figuring out like how they navigate life in certain situations, stuff like that too. So that wasn't in talks after we had finished this.
Because that situation with the young lady that was against abortion and the lady that had the abortion because of health concerns, I thought that was a powerful piece right there, and that's the key to Roe versus Wade. So if you love on that a little bit and put that story out there, because Black women, we have the most mortality rates when it comes to pregnancy. So if you can bring that out there also in that little mix.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to put that out there, because my love for Black women, but also within that story. Because originally in the very first part of the film where we saw the Roe versus Wade, it was going to talk about Breonna Taylor and how the people that shot her, all the people, they got off. And then Roe versus Wade happened, and I was like, that's a little bit more powerful because it's fresh and it's new. And the two, actually, what's funny is the two women who were the actors, those are my other two co-writers who helped me write the second half of the film. And we used those real stories. So Kiana, who was the girl who had the abortion, that was her real story. And we were in talks where we were writing, and she had told that story just out of the whim, and I was like, that's it. I was like, we need to use that story right there in the film.
I felt that.
Yeah.
When she was doing, I was like, yo, that's person. Like, it was so real in her voice.
Yeah.
She nailed it on the head. Thank you so much. Everybody, your films were excellent. Thank you.
So before we leave, I want to tell you about what we're doing this afternoon at the Film House. I might order us some food. So it's free
So
for
get some
anybody.
curry chicken is what you said, right?
You know what? I'm thinking about getting us some soul food tonight.
So,
Let's do some soul food.
Let's bring it to the side.
For that.
Yeah. So at the Film House tonight, after today, about 5 o'clock, we're going to head over to our headquarters. We work on 126th. I have a friend coming who owns a tech company called Crew Me Up. And his name is Josh Friedman, and his partner V. They have an app that collects, or people who work above the line and below the line get employment, right? So if you're a director, you go in there and you find everybody that you need. And it's a lot of people of color, people of all races and faces, but who build community. It's a free app. Now that the strike is happening, he's still been able to get people work. So I really want you guys to come so that you can hear what he has to say. This is really important. That's why I left it to today. We have to continue to feed our film community and find options for them through independent work without crossing the picket line and not looking like scrubs. And he's been doing it, and he's gonna show us how to do that. And he's also one of the biggest producers and PAs, like production people in the business. So I want you guys to meet him, and we'll eat, and we'll have a good time tonight. I think we got some drinks. Y'all gonna have to pay for this liquor though. Now I'm about to buy y'all drinks. But I'll put up for the food, and we'll have a good time tonight. So that's 5 o'clock, okay?
Harlem, right? Harlem House.
Yeah, right at Harlem. And everyone here is invited as well, okay? If you have a pass today, you can come. All right, so without any further ado, we're gonna take a picture, and then we're gonna start the next show, which is Bronx Bandu. spending your day with us, and we hope you enjoyed. Good night.